This is Greg Troutwine with Maritime Reporter TV, and we're joined today by Sean Fernbach, President, and Thomas Peterson, the Director of Automation and DPS at Wärtsilä Voyage, to discuss advances in maritime automation and autonomy. Sean, I'll start with you. And when we talk autonomy, I would always contend that if you ask 10 different people the definition, you're likely to get 10 different answers. To start, how do you define Wärtsilä's smart autonomy approach?
Well, I think the way that we're looking at it is autonomy is a journey. And there's no question that the industry, at some point, various vessels of different classes will be fully autonomous. And the question is, which vessels will those be first? Will they be near coastal? Will they be tugs? Will they be waterways? We don't know. There's plenty of activity going on in all of those spaces. But what's required to deliver a fully autonomous vessel is hugely complex. It's when you look at the existing fleet in maritime, I mean, you're looking at in technology in an order of magnitude that is almost incomprehensible to the technology they have on vessels today. So today, most vessels, they'll have navigation, they'll have sensors, sonar, weather, comms, that sort of thing. Autonomy is about delivering a set of, we believe, is a set of solutions where that ultimately the sum total of those solutions will deliver a fully autonomous vessel.
One of the common themes that I and my staff hear is in the area of autonomy, the ship owners are not driving it, the technology companies are driving it. What's your perspective on this?
I hope not. Let me start there. So maybe just to build a little on what Sean said before, we actually try to look a little bit less at autonomous ships, and then what we are trying to look at is automating the operations of a ship. So what that means is that the same ship can have different operational profiles depending on what the ship owner is using it for, and some of those operational profiles will lend themselves much better to be automated than others. So the most obvious example is a ship going between two ports, very short transit time in an area where there's no risk of collision with anything else. That would probably be the simplest operational profile to automate, and it would make sense to automate more of the task being done on such a ship than ships operating in more complicated environments. So we strive to everything we do, everything we develop together with customers. So we strive to find customers that have challenges in the current operations that we believe that we together with them can help by offering some level of either automation or advanced decision support systems.
Obviously, you made some big news recently with the American Steamship company that recently was the first to install the Wärtsilä Smart Move solutions for hands-off transit along the Cuyahoga River in Ohio. Can you tell us a bit more about the contract and its significance to Wärtsilä Voyage?
Yeah, sure. So it's the first company to install this that we can talk about. But anyway, it's an interesting case, and I think it's an interesting case in many different ways. So we discussed a lot in Wärtsilä Voyage now about what customer centricity means, because we believe that's important for us. And I think this is a good example of that. So it started as a very open discussion with ASC. What do they do today? We spent some time with them to understand their operations, and then we found some common ground in what would make sense for them and what we believe would make sense for us in our work and our strategy in this area. So what we are delivering to them now is a ship that is a system that is able to automatically control the physical movement on the ship when going from A to B. This is not meant as something to replace the crew. It's simply meant as something to enable the crew to focus on all the other tasks that is related to navigating, for example, the Cuyahoga River. So there's a lot of things there's a lot of other things to take into account, so they can spend more of their cognitive energy, if you will, on those parts. And then it's also to have a higher level of repetitiveness. So what we deliver is a system that is, the technology is built on top of a dynamic positioning system, with some changes to the software, obviously, with a lot of changes to the HMI, because this is a completely different task than for a normal DP system. And then there is, on top of that, our own in-house developed sensors to allow us to have a good position reference system also when we pass under, for example, bridges.
Can you walk us through the process to discuss the timeline and the key milestones for this type of project, from when it's initially broached until it's finally installed?
Obviously, there's a lot of things going on before there's even a contract, right? So there's a lot of understanding of the ship's operational profile. Does it lend itself to use the capabilities we have? And if we assume that these things fall into place, then the first thing that will have to happen is, of course, the physical installation of the system on board. And one of the key efforts there is to make sure that there is the proper integration between our system and the propulsion system on board. So obviously we need to have full control of that system, but we also need to have it in a way that is safe, so that we don't have a risk that we suddenly break how that the emergency control system works, or the manual control of the system that is being used before we install our system. Obviously, all of this also have to work in the future. When that is done, then typically what we do is we start tuning the system and doing some dry runs, if you will, in a simulated arrival to a simulated port, meaning that we simulate the port in the software in open water, and simply sail the route. In this case, for ASC, we do the Cuyahoga River route in open water to test that we have the necessary control capability of the ship to do the different maneuvers. And once we are satisfied with that, then we start doing actual arrivals and actual ports.
Okay. So what is the physical, what's the tangible deliverable from Wärtsilä for this project?
Yeah. Okay. So that is some, one or more cabinets, depending on how much redundancy is required with the PLCs and IOs and so on. And then it's one or more workstations. And then it's a sensor solution for having position reference systems. Again, depending on the operational scenario, we have different sensors in our toolbox.
Excellent. I guess looking a little bigger picture off of the ASC project now, is the integration of this type of technological solution all or nothing, or is it a step process for those owners not ready to go all in?
No, it's definitely a step process. I mean, the example that Thomas just walked you through, and by the way, that was his baby, which is why he spoke so proficiently about it. It is a step process, and this is what I mean when I refer to, we see autonomy as a journey. So it's not an all or nothing. And I think the other thing that one has to take into consideration is the affordability. And as a business, Wärtsilä is really trying to pull its center of gravity much more towards the decarbonization agenda, and then we want to underpin that with activities and solutions that can help the various vessels move towards reducing emission reduction. And I think autonomy is just one of those things, less so perhaps on emissions, but much more on reducing operational costs, in terms of crew reduction, what have you. So yeah, it's definitely a step process. And I had some time and some experience in the automotive industry, and I think it's a good example to follow. They created 5 levels of autonomy, and I think we're at 3 now, level 3. It's all proven. And you have these things are complex to develop. They're costly to develop. They take time, and they need to be delivered at very high standard of quality and safety, of course, which is number one. And that's why these things will take time. And so it's a step journey, and then ultimately one day we'll deliver the whole lot in one go.
Looking at the issue bigger picture again, can you put in perspective the importance of this whole smart autonomy to Wärtsilä as a company?
Yes, of course. It's. We were talking about it earlier today. Actually, what is smart? It's very, very important, and it's definitely the way the industry will move. The question is how quickly and how much a part can we play in that speed of that paradigm shift, really. So I don't think not doing it is an option for us now. And I think the Smart Move program, as Thomas has described, was typically what we call proof of concept. It's something we did very specifically for one customer to prove out the learnings of the technology and the operations, and also hear what the customer has to say. Did it do everything that they were expecting it to do? And then you go through various iterations to get to the state of perfection. So yeah, it's the autonomy program is very important. And if I may, Greg, just correct the introduction. And Thomas heads up our what we call on vessel product group, and he has three big departments within that group in terms of managing the portfolio, and that's automation, navigation, and autonomy. So all the autonomy investment and the programs that we have in place, as well as the programs we will develop in the future, all sit within Thomas's group.
Can you put in perspective how you see the current pandemic impacting your business going forward?
COVID has taught us a lot of things, and one of the things that we've been able to do quite quickly in 2020 is take our training solution to the cloud, basically, because a lot of the training solutions we have provided historically have been fixed installations. They've been training centers. We have our own training centers around the world. Thomas and I operate out of Hamburg, and we've got a big training center there. And then we put these big training centers, like I say, all over the world, US, Asia, what have you. And of course, they're all closed. And so we had to very quickly think about how do we move simulation training to an online experience. And the team were able to do that very, very quickly. It's very impressive. So that effectively they can do it through their desktop. So that's an example of where we've had to sort of quickly address parts of our portfolio to accommodate the deficiencies as a result of the pandemic.
I'm sure that your business is continual investment in research and development. Can you put some size and shape to that investment in R&D and give to me in any detail that you can what to expect from Wärtsilä Voyage in the coming 12 to 24 months?
Yeah, I mean, Voyage is, I think the one word I would use, Greg, is substantial. Voyage is the sort of the pathfinder for Wärtsilä in terms of taking it through this digitalization process, and we're very well supported by the board of management and the board of directors, that they see us as an investment case. So we're not a mature business. Our numbers reflect it, because we're a composite of many acquisitions that have been made over the last 6 years that are now really coming together, and so they've invested north of $500 million on acquisitions, because they see this is where the future. And so yeah, we now need to sort of put all of that to good use, which is what we're doing, and create the portfolio of products and services and solutions for the future, and then start to drive not only the industry forward, but also ourselves as a business, start to drive some profitability into the business.